Hey everybody, welcome to my front porch. Today I'm going to be continuing my front yard project. I have a space between the sidewalk and the road that I want to do some plantings in, but it's a unique location specifically because I live in an area that gets a lot of snow load. So we're going to average between 150 and 180 inches of snow each year. And that means when the snowplow comes through, it's piling it up right in that spot. And when you have that type of thing, who knows what's getting, kind of plowed up on there. So our municipality tends to use sand to help add traction for people who are driving on this road, but at different times they have to use salt. That's going to help melt some of that ice that happens during the winter and also bring that snow down and also give us traction. So that salt can be a little bit of a problem for our plants. So certain plants can't tolerate salt, but certain plants are very salt tolerant and that doesn't bother them at all. So I need to pick plants that I think are salt tolerant. Also want plants that are super durable because in that snow plowing process, a lot of grit and gravel and all kinds of things get plowed with it. And then that area just gets kind of compressed with all kinds of stuff. Every year we're raking up all kinds of stuff in that area. So I'm looking for really durable, easy care plants for that spot. I'm not sure how all these plants that I've chosen are going to do, but at least I'm kind of starting from that point, and then next season we'll take a look, see how those are doing, and the ones that do well we're going to do more of. The ones that don't do well, they're off the list for us. So, and I should note, for those of you who are in an area that don't get tons of snow and you hear 150 inches of snow, we don't get it all at one time. Snow also has a tendency to compress over time, so that 150 inches does not go crazy. Although we can get drifts that'll be taller than our house at different times. That's kind of an extreme example there. But we do get lots of snow, but it's not something, it's something we're used to. We have the equipment and the, I guess, know-how to live with that. It just makes us a little bit unique from some other places. So I'm going to get out there. My neighbor who moved in last month, she had lots of cardboard for us. So I'm going to line the area with cardboard boxes, but I am putting in a lot of ground cover. So I have to think about that. So cardboard's a good thing because that's going to decompose, and those ground covers, certain ones kind of root out, and that's how they become a ground cover. So using stuff like landscape fabric with a ground cover, bad idea because it can't, usually can't root through that that landscape fabric, so it can't spread naturally. So I think that the cardboard is going to be a pretty good thing. Now it's not going to do anything this year, but as that cardboard deteriorates, it's going to be easier for the ground covers. And I just want to try to do my best to keep some weed suppression down. And this time I am going to use the landscape staples, so that'll be next on my list. So let me get started on that. I'm going to put that cardboard down and then get ready to plant. When it comes to a durable, easy to grow plant that's also salt tolerant, my mind immediately goes to sedum. It's one of those plants that can grow in really poor soil, doesn't require a lot of water, just kind of does its thing. In fact, it doesn't like fertilizer either. So it's one of those that you can plant it and almost forget it. It's that easy. Very minimal cleanup too. We usually leave it out for the winter with the seed pods because the birds will eat it. And then in the springtime, if there's any dead sticks or whatever, you just get rid of those. That's how easy sedum is. And for this project, I'm specifically looking at the really low growing ones. I don't want the ones that get pretty tall. They can get, I think, up to maybe 2 feet tall or so. And some of them are going to be more vase shaped, some of them are ball shaped. And then there's these more kind of crawly ones or more ground shaped ones, and these are going to range in size from just a couple inches tall up to maybe a foot. A lot of these that I have here are more in that 6 to 8 foot range, 6 to 8 inch range. And so the first one I'm going to show you here, this one's called Steal the Show. Beautiful steel blue color. I like the texture on this as well. So just a really nice one to kind of add that texture to it. And then like these two here are part of the Sun Sparkler series, and so those have really interesting kind of more red colors to them. So this one here is called Firecracker. And look at that nice kind of purple red color. Looks just really nice. Gets a flower as well, so a pink flower. And then over here we have Wildfire, a little more orangey peach color to it. So just gotta love how that one's looking. And then there's 2 yellow ones here. So this one here is called Little Miss Sunshine, and you can see why. And it's got that beautiful yellow flower. This one stays nice and low. What does it get to? Maybe height 6 to 8 inches. So just that little kind of mounding carpet kind of look to it. And the Proven Winners version of that, or of this, which is kind of similar, I'm sure they're a little different, but this one is called Rocking Low Yellow Brick Road. So this one also gets yellow. So I want to try some of these. I also have some of this Angelina. This is really common. This one just kind of fills in and takes over some space. I would love it if I could get like some of these nice dark kind of black sedums in there, but these are taller than I want in that area. But I mean, look at that beautiful leaf on there. And then they usually get like a nice cherry colored flower on them. Stunning, stunning plants. Now in here, if I look around for other plants that would be salt tolerant and kind of fit my criteria, definitely like the echinacea would get the job done. There's some dianthus in here. The salvia, the gaillardia. Gaillardia might be one to add too. They tend to stay a little bit lower, but have really bright colors. So maybe I'll do some of that. Russian sage gets a little taller than I want. And then there's some beard's tongue, penstemon. Those would do okay. Oh, I think it's echinops or the sea holly echinops, or is the other one? I can't remember. Sea holly, it's got the more thistle kind. That would be a really good one in there, but I really don't want to put something picky where people might be walking, and also it gets taller than I want. So now I'm going to head over, maybe head down the hallway and into greenhouse 5, and we'll see what else I can find in there. It's too sunny in that spot for hellebores. The same would be true for the Virginia. This one's just finishing up flowering, but there's just too much light in that spot for these kind of plants. Now around here, another way to know if a plant is both salt tolerant and easy care is you ask yourself, is it appearing in the landscaping of all the fast food restaurants and banks? Because if it appears in their landscaping, it's probably some of the easiest plants to grow. And daylilies definitely fall into that category in our area. And I'm not a big fan of daylilies. I think they're just used all over the place. And when the spent ones are there, they don't always look so great. So I'm always like, daylilies, I could take them or leave them. But if I'm going to pick a daylily, I'm going to pick a reblooming variety. And there's a couple really beautiful ones. Most commonly, they're yellow. So the happy returns and those kind are really, really common. They're used all over the place. But there's some really cool colored ones that are apt to rebloom. And so I'm going to show you a couple of those. Like this one here is called Grape Escape. Would you look at the flower on that? That really does have a beautiful purple tone. I really like it. Now, there are really amazing colors and patterns on a lot of daylilies, but a lot of those are once and done. So I'm going to try to avoid those. And some of them are bloom once and then maybe bloom again. So I want the ones that kind of definitely lean towards reblooming. Another one is this one here. This one's called Boogeyman. This one's new for us this year. We've never had it before, but I love how it has that little bit of purple edge, but then almost black inside. Very, very nice. Kind of similar to Grape Escape, but Grape Escape doesn't have that change of color from the outside to the inside. Sorry, I'm getting kind of in the weeds here. And then this one here, it's not blooming yet, but it's called Daring Deception. And so I really kind of think this one's an interesting one as well. And notice I'm kind of going more purples rather than yellows, and that's because I feel like yellows are overused. But there is one yellow that I am quite fond of. It's called Stella d'Oro. And I really like it because it's more of a golden yellow. Let's see if I can move this out of the way. If you compare it to just our more traditional, like Happy Returns, I don't know how well you can see the difference in the color. Sorry, can't really see myself. So it's definitely got more of a golden color versus that yellow color. So I'm going to go for it, and I think it's going to look really good with some of those dark colors. Now, when I'm in here and I look around and I think about what else would be salt tolerant, I'm going to say, what else do we have? So the Veronica would work. Baptisia, man, if I could put Baptisia in that spot, I would, but it's just too tall. The Veronica doesn't get too tall, but it's not really the look I'm going for. Same thing with like a lot of the sedums where there's a lot of mounding ones and vasy ones, and I didn't want those. What else is on my list here? Oh, yarrow. And there's some beautiful yarrow, but yarrow again gets kind of tall. It can be a little bit of a spreader as well, but I do have one variety, and I actually tucked it under here already. It stays a lot lower, and it's called Little Moonshine. And let's see, what is its height? More 8 to 12 inches. So this one is particularly short, so it's like 2 inches tall right now, but it's going to get a little bigger. But it has that traditional yarrow kind of flower to it and leaf, but it stays lower. So I want to try that one as well. And yarrow's another one. Poor soil is fine for it. It does great with very little water. So, can't go wrong with that one, except for the fact that it can be a spreader. So in some areas those yarrow plants will just kind of take over a little zone. So do be aware of that. And the other would be some of the grasses. And there's grasses that get, 8 feet tall, and there's grasses that stay really low. All those would work. I don't think I'm going to put any grasses in that area, though. I just don't think it's going to work with what I want. But I'm going to put some ground cover. We have some thyme. I'm going to put it's called spicy orange thyme. So I'm going to put some ground covers in there. Just stick them in between. The Irish moss and Scottish moss, I don't know if that's salt tolerant, but I'm going to put some in there just to see how it works. So I'm testing some things here, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. But again, trying to stay low, gonna have a little high spot with the daylilies. I think it's worth trying. I don't know. I just know they're durable. And I am really worried in that spot because it gets so piled with snow and then the gravel and sand and everything gets pushed up on there as well. So I do need plants that can hold up to that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be an experiment. Do I have too many plants? Well, I'm gonna take them and I'll use what I can. I can always bring back anything that I don't. So that's the one advantage of having parents who own a greenhouse and nursery. Okay, so it's all planted up, and I will say there are 21 different perennials in here, and there's 45 plants all together. And normally I probably wouldn't mix that many plants together. I would try to limit it a little bit more, maybe get more kind of clusters of plants or drifts of plants together. But because of the unique location of this particular plant with some of the stresses that they're going to be under, I wanted to get a whole bunch of different varieties tucked in here, and that way we're going to just see which ones take and which ones don't. The ones that take, hey, I'm putting more in there. And I did make sure that, like, I cluster them together, but I also made sure that there was always one kind of farther up and one farther back. And my thinking behind that is that, you know, some spots are going to have a little bit less light, some are going to be maybe under more snow load, other ones might just get other abuse. So by kind of mixing them around, there might be some plants that do better on one end of this bed than on others, and I just want to be able to experiment with that a little bit. So let me just take you on a little tour of these. Most of them I kind of described when I was at the greenhouse, but there's a couple of them in here that I hadn't talked about. So let's take a look. So here I have some of the spicy orange thyme. Gets that name because of the, I think, the aroma that it has. It's looking a little mangy, so I'll probably give it a little bit of a haircut. I think that'll kind of freshen it up. Also planted 3 of the marigolds that I started from seed. Those are the cocoa yellow marigolds. Love those. They're nice color in here because I just thought I need to add a little color as well. This here is going to be some of the creeping Veronica or Speedwell. And so this variety, I think I might need to make sure that I keep it clear of the wood chips so that it can keep spreading. Some of the Scottish moss or the Irish moss. This here is that low yarrow. Here's some lamium. So I think I have red Nancy and white Nancy in here. And then here are some pieces of the succulents that fell off. And sometimes with succulents, you can just kind of put them in contact with the soil, and a lot of times they're roots. So I'll probably cut these, stick them on there and just see what happens. And then over here, this one is called a cerastium. I haven't grown it before. It gets a white flower, so I'll be curious to see how that goes. Curious about Gaillardia too. I haven't grown Gaillardia either, and this is one they say it's a short-lived perennial, but it does reseed, and you can also start it from seed. So this would be one to kind of consider, and I just want to see how it does and if it reseeds or not. More of the time, more daylilies. This here is some of the white swan marigolds that I started from seed. This one here, I think, is the Silver Kisses Mount Atlas Daisy, another kind of ground cover that I have never grown before. So I'm doing some experimenting here, trying a lot of plants that I've never grown before. More of the Irish or Scottish moss. I don't remember which one's which. And then this is that Angelina. This is another one where if you just take a piece of it, it will root. So that's kind of nice. And we're just starting to get a bloom on that white swan. So we'll see how that one turns out. I tucked in some other annuals. So this one here, this is always a hard one to say, the Rothica myricoides Ugandese or whatever. It's a little butterfly bush, and it has the most beautiful little blue flowers that look exactly like butterflies. So I wanted to put this in here. I think this is one for people walking by. They're going to be fascinated by it. So we've got a lot of buds coming, so it'll be nice to see. And then I also have two types of cosmos over here. So this is the Picotee, and then this one over here is the Cosmic Orange. So it'll be a lot of fun to see how these do. So I think this is going to be a great experiment. Lots of plants I've never grown before. I'm looking forward to seeing what takes and what doesn't. One thing I didn't mention is that when it comes to that space between your sidewalk and your road, every municipality is different about what's allowed there and whose kind of area that is, because sometimes that's kind of a no man's land, or that's kind of more under the jurisdiction of your municipality. So for example, there's a rumor that we might be getting a new road. Now I'll believe that when I see it, but we've been waiting for years because our road has just been patched and patched and patched. When that happens, and if they put in new sidewalks or any of that kind of stuff, these plants might not be covered when it comes time to replace them or put stuff in. They may just only say, nope, we only cover grass. So, you know, we could lose these, or we might have to pull them all out, put them back in, or, you know, who knows, they might just do a new road and we won't get new curbing and all that stuff, and it wouldn't affect us either way. So anyway, it really depends on your municipality. So you might want to check that before you put stuff in there. I did not, which, you know, I might regret it down the road, but for now, hey, this is an experiment to see exactly how these plants are going to do. And I have to say, I have to thank all you guys for making this possible, because it's the revenue that I make with my partnership with YouTube that's paying for these plants and these projects. So thank you guys very much for just your support and your comments, because, you know, the more people who are watching, the more money I have for projects like this that I can share with you guys. So I just want to say thank you. I mean, I really do mean it. It's been a really lot of fun this season, and I look forward to bringing you guys more videos. So I will see you guys all in the next video. Let's talk about the cost of this project. I didn't have to buy any soil or any amendments for my soil. I felt like my soil's good enough, so I didn't add anything. However, if I had some good compost, I probably would have mixed that in. I always find that's a really good thing to do anytime you're working with your soil. I also didn't use any fertilizer as I was planting these in. Again, I didn't feel like I needed it at this point. A lot of people just by default will use fertilizer anytime they're planting something. I'm sure that would have been fine. However, with the sedum and plants like echinacea, I would not have added any fertilizer to that soil at all at any point, because they don't tend to need it. Now for plants, I spent about $335 in plants. I'll admit that's on the high end. My sedums and my daylilies, those were all in those 7 and 8 inch pots. Those are going to be a lot more expensive, but a lot of times those are plants that are available in a much smaller size at a much more reasonable price. Same thing with the ground covers. Quite often you can find those in smaller packs, like multi-packs, and you can save a lot of money doing them that way. However, if you're using smaller plants, I always say it's better to plant them either in the spring or early summer, That way they have time to root in before winter. That's going to increase their chance of survival through those winter months. My cardboard came from my neighbor, so that didn't cost me anything. The mulch cost me $3.33. I had 8 bags, so that's a total of $26.64. If I mail in the rebate, I'll save $2.96 more. So that brings down the price even more. And mulch is one of those things at the end of the season that they're often trying to clear out. So a lot of times you can get it for half price, sometimes even better. So in total, I spent about $360 on this project. I'd say if you were a really smart shopper and was really focused on getting lower prices and maybe not choosing some of the more expensive plants, you could do this entire project for $150 and definitely even cheaper if you're propagating your own plants.